Okay, we are ready to go.
Okay, I will call this meeting to order. This is the regular meeting for the Chapter Planning Commission. It is Tuesday, December 8th, 2020. Please note that all commissioners are present via Zoom. And I will entertain a approval of the agenda.
I make a motion, we approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Commissioner Nunless,
Aye.
Johnston,
Aye.
Wiebe,
Aye.
Mauser,
Aye.
and Franz.
Aye. Okay, moving on, we are looking for an approval of the minutes. That was our Zoom meeting, regular meeting, October 13th, 2020.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
Second.
Commissioner Nunless,
Aye.
Johnston,
Aye.
Wiebe,
Aye.
Mauser,
Aye.
and Franz.
Okay, at this time, I would like to open the public comment. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wanting to address the commission on matters not listed on this agenda. Clerk, do we know if there is anyone who would like to make a public comment?
I don't see any hands raised, so there is no public comment at this time.
Okay, at this time, I will close the public comment and we will open the public hearing. We will start with public hearing item number 1, development agreement number 19-17 for revised tentative track number 6713.
Honorable
Planning
Chair, members of the Planning Commission, this development agreement is for revised tentative track number 6713. And if you look on the second page of the staff report, you'll see a project location map showing that the site, it's 10 acres, is at the west end of Elizabeth Avenue, just west of Grimway Academy. And the property owner, Self-Help Enterprise in the city, has been working on preparing the development agreement to record that map. And unfortunately, both the city and the applicant were still working on finalizing that development agreement. But we were planning to go on tonight on December 8th for your Planning Commission's consideration. And we sent out the public hearing notice for the development agreement. And we had the hearing notice published in the newspaper. And we sent it to property owners within 300 feet of the project boundary. And so since the draft document itself is not available for consideration, but we've noticed the hearing notice, staff is requesting that your commission can open the public hearing and then immediately continue it to your regularly scheduled meeting for January 12th, 21. So staff is requesting that you, as it's stated there, you open up the hearing and then you continue it to January 12th, 2021. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Commissioners, anybody have any questions? Okay, we wish to open the hearing on this agenda item, and we will continue it on our next regular meeting on January 12th in the new year, 2021.
Mr. Chair, if you would ask for a motion.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I need a
that's fine.
motion for that.
Make
I'd
a
make
motion,
that
we
motion.
continue the hearing.
You have
I
a
make a
second?
motion. Okay.
I second it.
Commissioner Nunless,
Aye.
Johnston,
Aye.
Wiebe,
Aye.
Mauser,
Aye.
and Franz.
I didn't hear. Who is the motion? Who made the motion?
I did. I did.
Who did?
I don't care.
Don't make any difference.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Ron-
Mr. Chair,
Ron
just
made the
recognize-
motion.
Yes. Yeah.
Commissioner Nunless made the motion. Okay, item number 2, tentative tract 6555 time extension.
Honorable Chair, members of the Planning Commission, Suzanne Force is going to provide the presentation on the project.
Can you flip to the next page, please? Honorable Chair and Commission members, tentative tract 555 is located at West Fresno Avenue and North Shafter, as you can see on the map on your screen. The tract was originally approved December 6th of 2005, and through a series of legislative extensions and a couple of discretionary extensions approved by the City Council, the map is still active. Brian Jeffries is the current owner of the property, and he requested an additional 2-year extension in November. And we're working within the 60-day approval period that's allowed by the State Subdivision Map Act. Approval of the request would allow the map to stay alive for 2 more years. That is the last extension of time that's available through the discretionary process. If the state legislature passes additional extensions of time, then the map could extend however long they choose to lengthen the life of these older maps. The property is a little over 20 acres and proposes to subdivide it into 72 single-family lots that range in size from a little over 8,000 square feet to a little over 14,000 square feet, and a sump lot. As you can see from the aerial photograph, currently this site is planted with almond trees. And the applicant requested the extension just in an effort to keep the map viable should somebody decide to come in and want to develop it. So staff is recommending that you recommend to the City Council that they approve the map, the extension of time. That's it.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions back to staff at this time? Okay, I wish to open this item up to the public hearing. Do we have anyone who would wish to speak in favor or against this agenda item?
There is no public comment at this time.
Okay, we will close the public hearing on this item. And unless the commissioners have anything else to ask of staff, we will entertain a motion.
I'd make a motion that we adopt resolution number 2369 as written.
I'll second it.
Commissioner Nunless,
Aye.
Johnston,
Aye.
Wiebe,
Aye.
Mauser,
Aye.
and Franz.
Okay. Okay, moving on to item number 3, which is amendment number 1 to amended and restated development agreement number 18-16 for tentative tract number 7318.
Honorable Chair and members of the Planning Commission, if you would go to the next slide, please. So this is the site of tentative tract number 7318. You have reviewed 2 previous proposed development agreements for this. You approved the map back in 2017. We have a new applicant, which is Trivium LLC, and Allison Paula with that company is here tonight. If you have any questions during the public hearing. So the tract map is proposing 158 residential lots. And one of the requirements of that tract map was that a development agreement be approved between the property owner and the applicant prior to recordation of the map. And if you go to the next slide, please. So here's an illustration of the map that was approved by your commission and showing the 158 lots. The next slide, please. So you approved the original development agreement back in 2019, and back then there was the development requires some offsite sewer improvements, and there was a particular strategy developed for that development agreement to address that, and required signalization at Tulare and Highway 43. And also the applicant at the time, the property owner, had some particular housing plans that they were proposing for the development. But that development fell through, and there was a new proposal to develop that site with new house plans, and that came before you as amended and restated development agreement number 1816, which you reviewed and approved back in 2020. And there were actually two applicants involved. One was the original owner and another developer, and they had a new set of house plans that they wanted to develop, and addressing the sewer requirements and addressing the signalization fee. There was a new strategy implemented in that development agreement. And unfortunately, that deal also fell through. And we have a new property owner and a new applicant that is pursuing the development of this site. And the applicant is Trivium LLC, but also we only recognize Trivium as the applicant and property owner in that draft development agreements before you deny. But there's an actual property owner with a different company name that's affiliated with Trivium, and I sent you out an email today with a memo requesting that you, if your planning commission so recommends approval of the development agreement, that you direct staff to update the development agreement with the new recognized property owner, which is Good Dirt LLC. Next slide, please. So the new development agreement is essentially the same as the amended and restated development agreement you approved in 2020. New set of house plans, nice big house plans are being proposed in Exhibit E. It's the new applicant's house plans. It's the same fee will be paid with the first building permit to address the offsite sewer requirements, and there in this you'll see the fee amount. And also, like with the amended and restated development agreement, a $500 traffic signal fee will be paid at the time of the issuance of the building permit to address that signalization at West Tulare and Highway 43. Next slide. So staff is happy with the development agreement, and we believe the project is ready to go. And so we're requesting that your planning commission adopt resolution number 2370, a resolution of the planning commission of the city of Chapter recommending the city council adopt the addendum to the mitigated negative declaration that was adopted for general plan amendment number 16-28 and zone change number 16-63, and adopt amendment number 1 to amended and restated development agreement number 1816 for tentative tract number 7318 as set forth in Exhibit 1 of the resolution, and also direct staff to update the development agreement as recommended in the memo to the Planning Commission dated December 8th, 2020. Thank you. This is a public hearing, Mr. Chair.
Understood. Thank you, Director Clausen. At this time, do any commissioners have any questions back to staff?
John, you're on mute.
That's usually a good thing. The only question I have, and it really doesn't pertain to whether we approve this or not, but that's going to put two signals pretty close together, isn't it?
No, the signal at West Tulare, and the one at CHAPTE, there was a traffic study done for that, and it is at the appropriate, there's appropriate separation for that signal. In
And that
fact,
one-
the traffic impact study actually recommended that a new signal be provided there. And I should also point out for you that, you know, if high-speed rail ever comes, they're going to close, you know, the access to North Shaft, or there'll still be a signal there, but that recommendation was part of the traffic impact study, so that there is no issue with the distance.
Okay, thank you.
Director Clausen, is this project as proposed now, that those homes are a little bit bigger than in the original, is that correct?
That's the originals they were rather small, and they wanted a large percentage to be small, and we had a different strategy set up that there's a certain percentage for the very small ones, and then it built up, and there was an average in that strategy for about 1,600 square feet overall. And this actually has a higher minimum average for the entire development, which is 1,800 square feet. And the house plans and elevations in Exhibit E are really nice. So they'll be very nice homes for that development. And they have a nice range of sizes for future property owners.
I have one more question, Peter. Wayne, when we first started this project, it seems like years ago,
It was.
didn't we have some people that from the Prince Lane area and in there that didn't want that?
Well, what they didn't want was through traffic, I believe it was on Gibson.
Oh, okay.
And so the developer was happy to, what they wanted was a pedestrian access so the kids could walk from that area through the subdivision down to school. And the developer is happy to close off that circulation. It was originally proposed as traffic going through to the east, but they closed that off, and then the development still providing a pedestrian access from the east side through the development and down to the south. So, and since then, since the original development agreement was proposed in 2019, we have not heard any comments from the adjacent property owners to the east about that issue. They've been happy with the design, as far as I understand.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we will open the public hearing on this item. If you'd like to speak for or against this item, please do so now.
I don't see any hands raised.
Okay, do any commissioners want to ask Allison any questions?
Yes, I'd like to ask for one.
You're
Are we
on
gonna
mute,
get this done
Allison.
here pretty quick?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Are we going to do this time?
That is certainly the hope, yes. Our plan is to build out the entire development within 2 to 3 years. So all 158 homes, we're hoping to have them finished within 2 to 3 years.
Good, thank you. Hope I'm here to see him.
So do I.
Thank you, Allison. Okay, we will close the public hearing, and if there's any more questions for staff, now's the time, or we will entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the recommendation as read and written.
I'll second the motion.
Commissioner Nunless,
Aye.
Johnston,
Aye.
Wiebe,
Aye.
Mauser,
Aye.
and France.
Okay. Public hearing item number 4, general plan amendment number 20-34 and zone change number 20-68.
Honorable Chair, members of the Planning Commission. If you go to the next slide, please. So this is a proposal to change the general plan element of the city's general plan and the zoning for 2 residential lots that are adjacent to the east of Myers Big Stop. And the purpose of this change in general plan and zoning is to facilitate future development or future expansion of the Myers Big Stop gasoline station and convenience store. However, no development is proposed at this time. The applicant is pursuing this because, and I've got another aerial photo that I'll talk about what they're actually proposing to do on their site in the future, and that future development would require prior approval of a conditional use permit from your planning commission. But I just want to get you acquainted with the site first. So to the north is McDonald's, and if you recall, the 2 residential lots to the east of the old McDonald's structure went through the same process where they changed it from residential to general commercial. And further to, and if you go to the next slide, please.
Wayne,
Yes.
is that east or west?
It's west.
I'm sorry. I was starting to talk about Myers Big Stop to the east, and then I was referring to, yes, the site to the west. So sorry. So we are looking north, south, east, and west on these maps. So here's a map of the existing general plan land use designations. You'll see a McDonald's site is commercial professional office. Myers Big Stop is commercial professional office. On the east side of the project site, the project site is currently designated medium density residential. And then the properties west of that are all medium density residential. The properties immediately south of the project site are medium density residential. And then the properties directly south of Myers Big Stop is designated commercial professional office. Next slide, please. So here's the map of the existing zoning districts of the project site and surrounding area. Again, McDonald's site is zoned general commercial. Myers Big Stop is general commercial. The project site, the 2 residential lots to the west of Myers Big Stop is zoned R2 or medium density residential. And then the same for the properties to the west. The 2 lots south of the project site are zoned R2 as well. And then the properties to the south of Myers Big Stop are general commercial. Next slide. So here's an aerial that identifies Myers Big Stop right there on the northwest corner of Beth Eden and Shafter Avenue. And the big structure is the convenience store. And then on the east side of the convenience store is the canopy for their gas dispensers. And what the applicant wants to do is move in the future, if they obtain approval of the general plan and zoning change, is to move that canopy and the dispensers to the north side of the structure, which then would allow them and provide more customer parking in the front of the store. They're having difficulty with, customers using both the dispenser, gasoline dispensers, and then trying to park in front of the store to go inside. So their plan is to move that to the north side, provide more parking lots up front. But if the gas dispenser goes to the north side of the structure, basically traffic would be coming in from Shafter Avenue, traveling west to the gas dispensers, and then would need to exit the rear of the convenience store, or basically where the alley is located right now on the rear side of the convenience store. And the problem is with that alleys cannot be used for general commercial use. So if the applicant wants to move or provide traffic circulation to the rear of his building, he would need to move the existing alley, which is public right of way, to the west. And that would have to be moved, basically on top of where those 2 units are on top of the residentially zoned properties. And then that would have to be moved and reconfigured to city standards. So that's their basic purpose of doing that. So they were looking first at buying just the first set of the residential lot, the 2 units, then also is pursuing with the current property owner to buy the adjacent one in case they need that property as well for the design. Next slide, please. So it's a fairly simple proposal. The issue is, that the new traffic circulation to the rear of the structure would be basically going down where the alley currently is. Let's go back to that last slide. I'm sorry. I wanted to point that out. So basically, the new traffic circulation would be going down this alley, and it would be on private property, and that's what the applicant needs to move the canopy to the north, and then the alley to serve the residences to the west would then be moved to the west. And he may only need 1 residential lot to do that, but he's looking at acquiring both in case the design needs it, and he's planning on purchasing both lots just to have that there. So the only real issue would be like, would the properties to the south be impacted by such a design? And that's a design you would actually consider at the conditional use permit stage, but you need to look at it now. The circulation to the rear of the building would essentially be going in alignment with the existing alley to the south. So it shouldn't really impact the residences to the adjacent to the south of the project site. And of course, the alley, if it's moved to the west, shouldn't impact those residential homes to the south because it wouldn't be being used for commercial purposes. It'd just be used for the residences to the west and for trash pickup like that. So the traffic going through the alley would be fairly limited if it happens to be moved to the west. So that's how we've been looking at this proposal. So staff is encouraged by the proposal and would like to see the convenience store be able to expand their commercial uses. So next slide, please. Staff is recommending that the Planning Commission adopt resolution number 20-371, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Shafter, recommending the City Council adopt General Plan Amendment number 20-34 as set forth in Exhibit 4, and adopt resolution number 20-372, a resolution of the Planning Commission, City of Shafter, recommending the City Council adopt zone change number 20-68 as set forth in Exhibit 5. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Klassen. I have a question, and I know you said the design would come later, but moving that alley and creating a private runway there, would there be some sort of barrier then in between the public alley and the private runway?
Yes, Mr. Chair, and that's a good point. I should have already brought that up. So in the zoning ordinance, any commercial development adjacent to a residential use requires a minimum of a 6-foot high block wall. So if that rear area became the rear traffic circulation out of the gas dispenser, they would be required to build a new block wall to protect the residences to the west. Even though the alley's there, they'd still have to build it on the west side. And that would be done through and conditioned through a conditional use permit for that new project on the site. But more important to point out, staff would recommend, and we'd recommend the Planning Commission approve it that way, that an 8-foot high block wall, same height that the block wall that was developed for the McDonald's expansion. An 8-foot high block wall provides significant improvement in reducing vehicle sounds and voices in the parking lot. Going that additional 2 feet with a block wall does amazing things in reducing the sound. So we would recommend that as part of the development when the applicant decides to pursue that change at his site. Yeah, absolutely. So it would be required anyway, and we would recommend at least an 8-foot high block wall to provide that separation.
Wayne, I don't know if this is the time, or Mr. Chairman, I don't know if this is the time to bring this up or not, but what's that going to do to the traffic on Beth Eden there? By routing those people back around, and then they'll have to go down Beth Eden one way or the other.
Yeah, and it'd be like they use that, right? I mean, the truth is they already use that alley right now, just driving around the store. I mean, folks do that. And then what I've seen is they exit to the east to get back on Shafter Avenue. So there really wouldn't be any change in or impact to the folks to the west in the residential, because folks that would be getting gasoline and leaving the site would get back on Shafter Avenue to go wherever they're going. There wouldn't be any real change in traffic going west on Beth Eden that I see.
That can be pretty congested in there when Shafter Automotive has cars parked on the street.
Yes, it gets, and that's why they're pursuing this change is to provide more parking up front, so people aren't parking on the street, and then getting folks to get up on the north side to get their gasoline, opening that area up to provide more parking. That's their purpose for wanting to do this general plan and zone change. So we see it as something that'll facilitate reducing the congestion at that location, because the convenience store will be able to provide more parking up front. There's like 2 stalls there right now with the current location of the dispenser. So we see it as an improvement for the location rather than creating new impacts.
Is there any complaints about the project from the residents?
No, Commissioner Nellis, haven't received any comments about the proposal at all. Yeah.
Most of those units are there rentals, so you wouldn't get any anyway, probably.
Sure, but we haven't the commercial property to the south or to the east. We haven't received any comments from those folks.
Now, changing this zoning could open the door for additional development to happen on those 2 lots. Is that right?
That's correct. In particular, it'd be like a professional office development on like, let's say the new alley uses up most of the first residential lot, then someone could convert that residence to an office building. Yeah, that is possible. But the sites are fairly small, and it would be difficult to put a large office building, and in particular a retail type building, because you couldn't provide the parking with the structure. If you used the existing residents, like if they weren't moved, they were just there, and someone proposed a commercial use, it's not likely to even be able to provide adequate parking for the current structures that are on there. So I haven't seen that as an issue, really. There's just too many limitations on the size of the existing lots and the type of structure that you would have to establish on those sites to actually make it economically feasible to build new structures. And the current structures certainly aren't, the way they're designed and situated, they wouldn't facilitate any adequate on-site parking. So it'd be difficult to do.
And that western boundary lines up perfectly with the McDonald's, the west boundary of McDonald's.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. So, you know, if the applicant wanted to pursue a particularly completely different type of commercial use, yeah, you could extend it like McDonald's did. But then again, the same requirements for a barrier, an 8-foot tall block wall, would be required, and the alley would have to be provided, you know, west of that block wall. So it reduces really the ability of expanding that site to a different type of commercial use, But what it does is facilitates the current convenience market to getting that canopy on the north side, getting traffic around the rear, and then providing more parking up front. So the proposal as it stands is probably, it suits best the current retail use there. But I have thought about, you know, someone else, them pursuing a completely different new structure and retail use at that site.
At this time, we will open the public hearing on agenda item number 4. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this item, please raise your hand now.
There are no hands raised.
Okay. We will close the public hearing and back to the commissioners. Anything else for staff, or we will entertain a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the recommendation as read and written.
I'll second.
Commissioner Nunez,
Aye.
Johnston,
Yes,
Wiebe,
Aye.
Mauser,
Aye.
and Franz.
Aye. Okay, moving on to public hearing item number 5, zone code amendment number 20-14. Staff.
Chair, members of the Planning Commission, this is a unique request by the applicants because city staff has been working here for both Suzanne and I for 15 years, and we've never had a request for a business license or a development proposal for a store that would sell firearms. So the first time we've ever been requested that, and that was done through a business license submittal application. And when we looked at the zoning ordinance is absent any indication of gun sales or firearm sales as a permitted use in any of the commercial districts. So unfortunately, we had to inform the applicants that the only way they could pursue opening up a firearms store, gun store in the city is to get the zoning ordinance changed to allow firearms sales, repair, ammunition sales as a permitted use. And so the applicants, they've leased a retail suite on Central Avenue downtown. They've already done that. They've gotten a business license for that, basically as a kind of sporting retail store right now, but they still want to pursue the possibility of selling firearms from the store. They already sell firearms at a different location in the county. So they have their federal firearms license to do that. But unfortunately, the zoning ordinance just didn't permit it. And we looked back in the zoning ordinance from the 80s, and it actually listed in the commercial zone that gun sales and repair was a permitted use. But somewhere in the 1996 zoning update, it was removed. Next slide, please. So here's a little outline of that. So we looked at the zoning ordinance from the 80s, it's permitted. We looked at, and then we looked through the ordinance update. There's no indication, historical information indicating why that particular type of retail use was removed from the zoning ordinance at the time. There's absolutely no indication, but it is absent from the zoning ordinance. Next slide. So in reviewing how the zoning ordinance could be amended, you know, of course, we want to look at all the commercial zoning districts in the city, and this map shows the historical core area. And in the very center of it, you'll see the red illustration. That's the existing downtown commercial zones. in the city. And then you'll see these highlighted kind of tannish brown illustrations. And those are all the properties that are currently zoned general commercial, the commercial zone district. There are 2 properties that currently have the neighborhood commercial zone district. And the first one is located on the west side of Highway 43, north of West Tulare Avenue. And you can see it kind of in the purple. And then at the very north tip of the city limits there, north of West Fresno, you'll see another little parcel up there, zoned neighborhood commercial. And so in looking at the current zoning, staff and its recommendation for listing firearm sales, repair, and ammunition sales as a permitted use is recommending that it not be allowed in the neighborhood commercial zones due to the limited number of parcels zoned that way and their size within the city. There's plenty of space and acreage available in the downtown commercial zone and the general commercial zones within the city to provide that type of use. Next slide, please. I also want to point out that we were looking at the historical core area, but there are 2 areas that currently also are designated for general commercial zoning. One is on the east part of town, just east of Highway 99 on Lerdo Avenue. That tannish brown area identifies the area that's currently zoned general commercial. And there's a Chevron station out there, restaurant, and the wonderful site out there. And then the other one is way down the southeast corner of the city, down on 7th Standard Road, east of Gossamer Grove. And it's that brown tannish area. And this is the location of Daryl's Mini Storage, which your planning commission reviewed and approved several years ago for their mini storage facility. And Daryl's wanted to go in that location, and to do that, they needed a use permit under the general commercial zone. So your planning commission approved the change from residential to general commercial with a conditional use permit for that mini storage facility. Next slide, please. And so here's the language that staff is recommending to your council. To your commission it simply says the firearm sales, repair, and ammunition sales pursuant to section 11.310 of this title. And I'll get to that reference in just a section, but next slide, please. So if your planning commission recommended approval of the addition of that retail use under table 5A of chapter 5, you'd be listing it like this example here. And if you look at under B, commercial uses, and number 21, staff is recommending that you add it, listed as firearms sales, repair, and ammunition sales. And then to the right, under each of the categories of the zone districts, under general commercial, you would list it as permitted with the P. And then under the neighborhood commercial, it'll be designated with this black box, which would indicate that it's a prohibited. That type of use is prohibited. The neighbor commercial zone, just like the blueprint and photocopying services. And then it'd be indicated under downtown commercial with the P as a permitted use. The C, letter C there indicates that the use requires a conditional use permit under that particular zoning classification. Next slide, please. So in addition to listing firearm sales as permitted use in the downtown commercial and general commercial zone districts, staff is also recommending that you amend chapter 11 of the zoning ordinance to add this particular requirement. And the purpose of it is to simply make sure that the applicant, when they get approval for the zone change, they open up the store, and anybody else that pursues that type of retail use in the permitted zone districts, that they have adequate storage for firearms within the zone district. And The basic requirement is that the seller obtain a permit from the chief of police authorizing the storage of firearms within the city, and the permit would be renewable annually. They'd have to pay a permit. Next slide, please. There'd be a fee, and the duration of the permit would be for 1 year. And of course, there'd be a process if the chief of police wasn't satisfied that they were achieving those storage requirements, that the permit could be revoked. And of course, we'd have to provide the due process for the seller of appealing the suspension or revocation. So staff is recommending that this addition be added, and the sole purpose of it is to make sure that the firearms on the site are adequately stored to prevent theft and burglary. Evidently, I was looking online on crime related to this type of retail use, and that is the biggest issue throughout the country, is that there is an attempt for the stores to be burglarized for the firearms. And there is no federal or state requirement that firearms at these stores be adequately stored. So we're recommending that this be added to the zoning ordinance. Next slide. So with the proposed change and allowing that retail use, and with the addition of the amendment to Chapter 11, staff has recommended the Planning Commission adopt resolution number 20-373, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Shafter, recommending the City Council approve zone change or zone code amendment number 20-14 as set forth in Exhibit 3. And Mr. Chair, this is a public hearing, and I see that the applicant, Jacob and Stacy, are online. So if you have any questions for them, I'm sure they'd be available to address those. Thank you.
I have a question of staff.
Sure, go ahead,
Uh,
Johnson.
Yeah. The one thing that I didn't care for in there was having to get a yearly permit from the police department. It seems to me like, excuse me, you know, once they get the permit, and if the police department isn't satisfied, then they can revoke the permit. But it's gonna be a lot of trouble and paperwork and excessive fees on the business owner, and if he has to go every year to the chief of police and get that permit. We've had some chiefs that were adamantly opposed to any kind of firearms with anybody but them, and so that could change along the way. And I don't know what our current chief's policy is on that, but you know, if we're leaving that discretion to him, to that one person, he could become a political thing, I think.
That's a good point, Commissioner Johnson, because you know, we issue one business license, and then the folks simply renew it each year. But on this, there's no reason for it to be renewed every year, and that can be amended in the proposed change by simply removing that requirement that it's only valid for 1 year. And so if you'd like, per your commission's recommendation, we can certainly remove that provision of the duration of the permit and simply delete it from the proposal. Not a problem. I certainly see the point that you're making, that we want to be as helpful as we can to the folks that provide retail in the city. So that's a good point.
Commissioner Johnston, how about, it sounded like the applicant conducts this business elsewhere in the county. Maybe we could ask them what their experience is, just to see if we're following normal protocols, or if how they feel about that once we open the public hearing.
There's Jacob and Stacy.
In just a minute. Yeah. Any other questions to staff before we open up the public hearing?
Yeah, where did they propose to open that business at?
Jacob and Stacy can give you the exact address. It's in It's on Central Avenue. It's on would be the west side of Central Avenue. And I believe it's in the old Fabergé suite, the old retail suite there. I believe that's the location of it. And they can confirm that for you.
One other thing, Wayne, I wasn't aware that the last time I bought ammunition, I bought it where Floyd's is. They're not supposed to be selling ammunition?
Oh, right now, Commissioner Johnson, you have to actually register to buy ammunition, and I'm not familiar that they are selling ammunition anymore. I recall in the 15 years ago, I did see firearms in there for sale, like a shotgun, and I didn't even think about whether the zoning ordinance permitted or not. Back in that time, there, and it was my assumption that you had a Second Amendment right to sell firearms, and so I would not have questioned it. But several years ago, there were several cases that came out. The court concluded that as long as there's an approximate location to cities or general areas where folks can easily drive to a firearms store and buy firearms, there is no Second Amendment right to sell, and that it's actually up to local jurisdictions to make that determination of the zoning ordinance. It's the land use question of whether or not to allow the retail sale of firearms. So, and with with those court decisions and the lack of it being indicated that that firearms are permitted use in the general commercial or downtown commercial zone, that's why we had to conclude that it wasn't permitted unless the zoning ordinance is changed.
Thank you.
You bet.
All right, we're going to go ahead and open the public hearing on this item. And Jacob and Stacy, it'd be great if you would address some of the items that have come up here. And please, if you would, state your name and address for record before the presentation. The public comment on for public hearing, item 5 is now open.
Stacy Hutchison, 329 Oak Street in Shafter. Hi.
Jacob Walter, 329 Oak Street in Shafter. Hello.
So, Mr. Chair, if you could repeat your question to them, I think that would be helpful to them about the storage issue.
So my initial question was what came up when Commissioner Johnson was talking about getting a permit with the police department annually, and curious at what your experience has been with at another location, if there is one.
There is for the federal side, as far as that's part of the requirements, is to let your chief law enforcement officer for the area that you're conducting business, just to let them know that you are conducting business. They have no say, from my understanding, from a federal side, whether you conduct business or not. You just have to give them the courtesy to let them know that you are in business for selling firearms and ammunition.
Jacob, where is your other store?
In Bakersfield, in the northwest, off of Heath and Johnson.
Not familiar with that.
It's a residential area. The federal government allows you to have a federal firearms license at your residence. In that case, it was Kern County. We are allowed to have that there for sales and permit use.
But you don't live there.
Excuse me?
You live in Shafter, correct?
I just moved here to Shafter, yes, but I still have maintained my license at that address.
Okay. Are you going to remain open there too, or?
No, I will not. I will transfer my license to this location in Shafter.
Okay. All right.
Jacob, what was Director Clausen said the Fabry, old Fabry jewelry site would be where this would go in. Does that sound right?
Right now, our current location is at 321 Central, which is one of the buildings owned by the Fabre family. It's the bigger lot that they have, I believe, which is closer to the barber shop and the clothing apparel place.
All right. Any more questions for Jacob or Stacy?
Not me.
Thank you,
But-
Jacob. Oh,
I was curious to what they were going to put in to make it a secure area to store.
sure.
that-
So the address has a couple of back storages that are actually behind the retail space that we would have no access to the public, as well as doors that were locked a few different ways, and they were not to be ever seen by the public, knowing where our storage locations were. That's right. Current. We also have bars set for placement here upon approval for the front window area and for the door.
Okay. I'm not sure the bars are permitted, but at one time we had an ordinance that you couldn't have bars on the windows. But
That's
Oh.
correct, Commissioner Johnson. The bars are prohibited unless they can provide, which several retailers have done downtown, provide curtains in front of between the window and the bars, and then that the bars during the day they slide open so they're not apparent. So, and then when they close at night, it's one of the expanding bar systems. And then when they close them and lock them at night, there's a curtain that's also pulled in front of the bars, between the window and the bars, so the bars aren't visible to the public walking down Central or any location.
Okay.
Yeah, and Jacob and I haven't talked about that issue yet, so.
well, I'd rather look at the bars than have the curtain up there and somebody in there robbing it and you couldn't see them.
I agree.
It's a good point too.
That's something that you'll have to deal with, Wayne.
Yes.
I don't have any other comments. I don't think. My last meeting, I get my licks in, Wayne.
All right. Then we will close the public hearing. Well, let's check with clerk to see, is anybody else like to speak on this agenda item?
I don't see any hands raised.
Okay, then we will close the public hearing. I would just like to revisit or have maybe Commissioner Johnston. Okay, so we were talking about it's item 2 in the general requirements, the second paragraph talking about that permit on a renewable annually from the chief of police.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that if your commission would like to remove that annual requirement, you would need to, under general requirements, remove that reference to renewable annually. And then also on the second page, under duration, just simply delete that entire clause under duration to remove that annual requirement. And if that was done, then, and your commission is going to recommend approval, just simply reference those two removals from the proposal as part of your motion.
Any more questions for staff? Okay. Entertain a motion.
Well, if I could find it in my agenda here, I'd make the motion.
Commissioner Johnson, I believe I read it at the end of my presentation, so you may make the motion as recommended.
Okay, I would make that motion as recommended, with deleting the requirement for the annual permit as we.
Very good. Thank you.
I'll second it.
Commissioner Nunez,
Aye.
Johnston,
Aye.
Wiebe,
Aye.
Mauser, and Franz.
Okay, that was our last public hearing item. So we will move on now to commissioner reports.
I'd like to thank Jacob and Stacy. Welcome to CHAPTE.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir. Appreciate it. Hopefully you'll come down and check us out.
You muted yourself. Oh.
I'm out
Any,
of
commi-
order.
any commissioners have anything to report?
Not I.
Right, then we are looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to say one other thing, Peter. In case I'm not here next month, I don't know how that's going to work with the new planning commission, but I'd like to thank everybody that put up with me for this last 4 years. And I enjoyed it a lot. So thank you all.
It was hard, John.
I know it.
Thank you, John.
And don't push your luck, Wiebe.
I guess I will have to admit that I really appreciated the point of view that you brought to the commission.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. And I'd also like to thank the staff. We have a wonderful staff. And we're going to miss Wayne when he's gone, even though I won't be there. But I like to call him and talk to him anyway. So, and Suzanne.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All right, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, folks.
Kirk, stop by when you're walking around here sometime.
Ron finds all kinds of things in the road that he'll sell you.
I've got a whole box of stuff I collect. You gotta come by and see it.
No.
Remote controls. I find money all the time.
Yeah, I found a lot of money out there.
I never found any money, but
I bill one time.
when I used to walk, I used to pull all the signs down off the posts. One day I pulled 48 signs down on my walk. And the next day on my walk, they were all back up.
Well, thank you both. It's been a pleasure working with both of you.
Oh, it's
Thank
good
you,
to see
Suzanne.
you guys again too. So I'll be around.
All righty.
All right,
We'll hope so.
Stop by on your walk, Kirk.
Very nice.
I know you did so good too. You're so good at talking and presenting.
What are you talking about?
Amazing. You?
I'm petrified of talking. in
Oh no,
public.
you can't even tell.
I'm always terribly nervous and petrified.
You can't
I
even
always
tell.
have been.
Really? Or are you
Always.
joking?
The reason I got into this, people,
Uh-huh.
well, I just like the subject,
Right.
but you talk about scared to death of talking in front of people.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
Really?
And the planning classes I took, we had to do it every week.
Right.
And
That-
then we had to give big presentations in front of lots of people. And you start learning those little techniques of how to do that.
Right.
And still,
The more
petrified.
you would present, right?
yes.
Yeah.
The first time I worked for the city of Visalia a long time ago,
Mm-hmm.
and my first time I had to give a presentation to the city council on annexation. I literally, my body wanted to, my mind didn't, but my body wanted to run out of there.
Yeah.
And it was like, you can run, go ahead.
Yeah.
You'll never do this again, but you can run if you want.
Yeah.
And my mind said, no, just get up. If you screw up, and I didn't at all. I mean, I
Yeah.
had my little outline, And it still, it doesn't, and it has never felt comfortable to me. It still doesn't to this day.
Even till this day, you
Yeah,
can't even
it never
tell.
feels comfortable. I do not feel comfortable. Like if there was a meeting and all of a sudden, hey, Wayne, would you get up and say something? I'd be, oh my gosh. Unless I'm saying something stupid and silly.
Yeah,
And then I can
But-
do it all day long.
you look so comfortable, like talking and calm, and
I think
you
it's just
know,
old age now.
It's
That's the-
you're like at this point. Oh. Okay, let me
Okay.
get oh, let me.
But practice doing it is the key.